Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the next episode of the Emergence Show as we talk about the latest and greatest in emerging tech and immersive experiences. Today, we have a special guest, Kris Webster, with us, and we're very excited to hear his story, his insights, and talk about passion. Passion is one of the most important factors of creating any business. And in the Web3 era, we see a lot more of that happening. So we're going to talk about that briefly. But before that, we're going to hear from Kris to introduce himself, and then we dive into the topic.
Hey, good morning. Coming straight from Los Angeles, California. My name is Christopher K-Bot Webster, but you guys can call me Kris, Mr. K, or K-Bot. Very happy to be here. Very happy to know that everyone is doing well today. If you are hearing this, I'm sending you beautiful energy, light, love, and happiness and prosperity for you and your family as we move into this space we all call Web3, blockchain technology, and what I like to say, the metaverse. Yes. And also today, I brought sound effects. So when we say the metaverse, it's something beautiful. When we say decentralization, it's something beautiful. When we say NFTs, beautiful. Okay. Now, when we say data scraping, no, we don't like that. When we say no transparency, no, we don't like that. When we say gatekeeping, no, we don't like that. All right, let me stop there before I get too excited. Thank you for letting me do that. So that's just some
Now,
sound
tell us
effects.
about yourself. Introduce yourself for the audience that may not know you. We would love to learn more about your background, and then I will share more about our topic.
Thank you. My name is Kris Webster, Kris with a K, Webster's and Webster's Dictionary. Yes, there's a Webs in my name. Okay, I grew up in Indianapolis, Indiana, by my grandparents who adopted me, which I love. Um, my grandmother was into opera, and my grandfather was into jazz. So he had a jazz music record label, and these worlds collided with me. They took me on operas, performances. So I'm a classically trained pianist. I also play the drums and an actor. But of course, I love video games and having fun. So both my parents did this, and they were also educators. They were deep inside the entertainment industry around where I'm from, and we also had a lot of family here in Los Angeles. So all my life we would come to LA, and I love this place. It's just amazing. Why? Because the whole world is here. Everyone's here in Los Angeles, so you get a potpourri, a hodgepodge of a salad, like a salad of people, of culture. So I love that. So as soon as I graduated from high school, I came out here to Los Angeles to pursue my entertainment industry goals. And then I found out that a lot of people who are inside the entertainment industry, they're not getting paid as much as you would think. Even those who are successful, they're not getting the royalties. They're not getting the equity. They're living in places where you would not imagine. And these are like famous people with television shows, with record deals. So a very small amount of people who are successful, but a very large amount of people are struggling. And I'm like, what's up with that? So of course, me being the kind of guy I am, I love entertainment, so I created this thing called the Robot Puppet Show after I graduated from college. And I did work at many music companies, music publishing companies, law firms, record labels, film companies, and premium cable companies doing administrative work and creative work. And I learned a lot of the business. So when the pandemic hit, I was like, you know what, this is a good segue for me to shift into what I'm really interested in, which is my robot puppet show, because I consider myself a decentralized Walt Disney. So, but the kind of Walt Disney that, is more transparent. Um, so when the pandemic happened, I leaned into my robot puppet show. We did a lot of virtual shows, but that's for children, for kids. Then I started learning about NFTs and blockchain technology through Clubhouse. I was like, whoa, this is something serious. This is business. This is a game changer. So I moved forward from my robot puppet show to my K-bot, which is my robot superhero DJ advocate for cybersecurity and equity and transparency, but also self custody. So the K-bot character is an expression of fighting back the system that has turned into a very predatory, centralized, only a few people win type of situation. So the K-bot character is an expression of that. So if you can imagine like the Mandalorian and Daft Punk or Kraftwerk or Marshmello coming together to do events. So I do events here in Los Angeles with my K-bot character and my robot puppet show, and we perform different ways at parties and celebrity homes and corporate events in the Los Angeles Public Library. And through that, I'm trying my best to teach people about Web3 and blockchain technology and NFTs in the metaverse, but it's hard. Okay, so I'll just land it right there. That's who I am.
Thank you.
I'm also a drummer. I play drums.
Awesome. Well-versed musician, artist, creator. Thank you so much for that, Kris. So what we wanted to talk about, as you all heard, Kris is super passionate about what he does, and he has created a community around his passion, and also created a metaverse space, which we will talk about. So what we are seeing a lot, if you have been in the Web3 space, it's about people going vertical in an area that they are passionate about, and attracting other like-minded people with similar passions. And this is an opportunity that may not have been as much possible in centralized environments, because now people have a saying. It's not just like a conversation. It's not just like a Facebook group where your comments are hardly heard. We talked about community last week, and how these are kind of like advantages of this Web3 technologies, that we can have this both ways conversation, and people can be beyond just a conventional consumer, and now be in a type of a participatory collaborator in what we are building. And so this is very beautiful, and there are different aspects to look at this. The ownership element is very important. It's not just for the financial perspective, but also just giving people an incentive to want to keep engaging, keep collaborating. And the other part is governance. These are, like we talked about it again in a previous episode, where the audience that are now part of the community members, they can have a saying in the direction of your brand. And so that gives them, again, more incentive to want to contribute and voice their opinion. What has been your experience, Kris, with these both elements of ownership and governance? How have you used that in your advantage for the community that you have built?
Thank you for asking that. It's been challenging because a lot of people who've entered into Web3 are like artists and designers and graphic and creatives who have achieved some success in a way that they've never had before. Some never had a job. Some have never been in an organization. So we have sort of stumbled in certain ways as far as like being professional. So when you think of decentralization, it's more like a pirate ship. It's a wild, wild west. We need some a code of conduct, basically. There has been some experiences that have been unsavory, like Sam Bankman-Fried of FTX. But there's also been some beautiful stories of people for the first time in their lives being able to buy homes and take care of themselves and have their own businesses. So it's sort of like a I'm losing my train of thought here. It's beautiful, but it's scary, and it needs to be tightened up. So as these corporations come into the space, we can be prepared to have professional relationships with them. So the community I work with, they're all wonderful, beautiful people, and they all love to connect and have beautiful hearts. But sometimes others come in who are they just want to make money, and it's hard to tell, who is authentic. So the vetting process of what is it, background checks, there's decentralized background checks of knowing who you're speaking with, because sometimes people have a lot of charisma, they're good looking, they're successful, but you really don't know them as much as you'd like. So I would like more of that, understanding who people are, uh, but we're getting there slowly. And we need a digital declaration of independence, a digital uh, code of conduct, so people can know what they're there for. Because if you're coming to Web3 just to make money, that's fine, but be transparent about it. But if you're coming to Web3 because you're desperate, because you need to pay this thing off, your car note or your rent or your mortgage, you might want to, stay in Web2 a little bit and use that, because Web3 in blockchain technology is still, like, in my opinion, an infant that's still growing. So we need to take care of that. Please go ahead. I need 1 second. Excuse me.
Sure. Yeah, so that's a good point. My personal experience has been that decentralization doesn't always mean disorganization. And so a lot of times we often see that communities that are just, using the word too literally, they're kind of, getting to those challenges a lot more. And I talked about this in other episode. One of the biggest decentralized autonomous communities that I have been part of, they fail to, like the founders fail to establish the value system, culture, all of those things that should be part of any organization, not just centralized or decentralized. And sometimes the founders who are original leaders forget or dismiss that very important step. And then that's pretty much the code of conduct that you're mentioning. That's just one of the elements. The whole culture in the value system and the purpose of the community needs to be defined. It's basically creating a brand. It's all about defining your values and purpose. And so, yes, the challenge of Web3 has been a lot of folks are kind of skipping the steps and jumping into creating something without putting the infrastructure in place. And then that's on the leader side, because I've been a founder and you have been, like, we are always talking about that first, because I think it's kind of like parents. You want to make sure your infrastructure is in place. But then the secondary part is the members of the community. That's where they need to make sure, as you said, be clear and honest with themselves and with the others. So if you are, attracted to Web3 because of the pure financial benefits, that's fine. It's just a different path. But if you are here to contribute and add value and co-create, then you have to be more patient. You have to be more collaborative. You have to be more accountable. And sadly, that is, again, an element that is often forgotten, and a lot of people are just expecting outcomes from a lot of the communities that they either purchased an NFT or they joined. They're asking, so what is the outcome, what am I getting, versus really thinking about what did I contribute. If I am a stakeholder in this, as an owner or governor or both, what have I contributed, and to what proportion should I be expecting a return? And so, again, that is a challenge, and it is even more challenging than what we're used to in the hierarchical, centralized organization, because in those environments, you would put the contract up front. Every expectation will be set up front. And, afterwards, depending on how you perform, you can go demoted or promoted. But, with Web3, sadly, the infrastructure is not well defined, and sometimes can go too wrong. But obviously, there are good examples as well.
Yeah, and there's no customer service. You know, how are you going to go to the police if your wallet is drained? Um, Decentralization is scary for some people because when things go wrong, there's no one to go to but to blame people and be upset. That's why it's important to, in my opinion, learn, be educated, and go slow. And that's why I'm working on this book, you know, because as much as I want people to come into this space, I also want them to be knowledgeable of what to look out for. And many people who artists who make NFT drops, in my opinion, have a duty to educate their communities on what there's, how to set up a wallet, how to not connect on different websites and have your own cybersecurity uh, head on. You are your own bank, you your own security guard, and that's frightening to some people. We've been so trained to rely on calling someone up, or we have the FDIC to ensure our bank deposits up to $250,000. But in Web3 and your MetaMask wallet, if your wallet gets drained, for now, there seems to be nowhere to go. So I am hybrid, centralized, decentralized. So I don't want to totally be decentralized. I want to be somewhat decentralized so we can have protections and regulations for bad actors and nefarious actors. Thank you. I'll stop right there.
I appreciate it. That was a very important point. Finding the fine balance between Web3 and Web2. Now it can be Web 2.5 or Web 4 or whatever it turns out to be. But it's about kind of getting the good of each side. So what I loved about Web 2 and the traditional centralized organization is that discipline, that framework that didn't happen overnight. It took years and years of corporate structure to be in place, to define roles and responsibility, to define expectations. And we don't want to kind of dismiss all of that and then jump into something that doesn't have any agreement in place. And smart contracts are great, but how much of the information is discussing about our relationship with the organization? It's mostly about how you distribute the funds at the end. So what about the kind of distribution of the credit? What about the distribution of responsibilities? A lot of those are missing. And then if you look at the DAO toolings, because we had our, decentralized autonomous organization, the Fashion DAO, where we looked into all the DAO toolings, and they're improving. It's a work in progress, but you also need to adhere to the kind of rules and guidelines or the decisions and concepts that the company or the individual behind each DAO tooling have created. And so they have some assumptions behind them that you first need to understand. And if you agree, then you can use them. So they're not as flexible. So what we ended up doing with the Fashion DAO was kind of creating these documentations and contracts from scratch by looking at what existed in the traditional centralized environments, and then adding more equitable rules and guidelines. So making sure, depending on how much each artist or creator is collaborating to a project, they will get similar level of IP and compensation. So that's just one example. And other aspects, like, I think Another challenge that I found in the governance part is that a lot of times people expect their voting rights to be kind of very correlated to what they have paid to get in, the NFT investment they had, or the number of tokens they purchased. Um, but then they don't necessarily contribute or add value other than the monetary part. And then what that leads into is that the people that are making decision for the direction of the organization, and potentially the, kind of like the decisions that are being made to distribute the funds, are all going to be kind of people who had a lot of money and not necessarily spending time to understand the community, to be tuned into what the community needs and the direction that they're going. So that was another big problem that I noticed. And our solution to that was governance needs to be correlated to amount of, it should be proportional to how much you contribute, both monetary and with the hours. It can't be just monetary, because then you start getting disconnected of the whole organization. And if you think about it, in the centralized organizations, when an investor comes in and they put in the money, only when they have board a seat on the board, they will be able to contribute in the decision making that impacts the destiny of the organization. So similarly, we want to have people making big decisions that are actively dedicating their time and energy. How about you, Kris? Have you contributed in any DAO, and kind of how has been your experience with that?
Almost certainly. I've been in many DAOs uh, since the beginning, since 2021. During the pandemic, I belonged to a couple of DAOs. Um, DAOs need to mature to, it seems like whoever starts the DAOs, or the leaders of the DAO, are deciding everything and basically saying, okay, this is who we are, this is what we're going to do, and all the rest of you guys are, do this. Vote on what we already decided. Okay, as opposed to, hey, we'd like to start something. What do you think the name should be? What do you think the logo should be? How do you think we should be paid? How much time do we put into this? Do we need an attorney to give us some advice? Do we need an accountant? And let's vote on that. However, some people just start something and, they want to share, and they might not have that organizational cultural experience that I was speaking of. Now, when I worked at several entertainment companies here in Los Angeles, I was the human resources manager. So I bring that experience with me, but I also have to leave it at the door because, if it's someone else's baby, someone else's DAO, I can't just come here and tell them, hey, you need to do this. What do you mean you don't do that? Hey, what's your name again? I've been working here for 2 years. What's your name? And sometimes people don't even want to tell you their name. And that's all well and good, but if there's no structure to it, how are we going to expect to take on the customers, the clients, and competition if we don't have these things tight? And I love the idea of a DAO. I love the idea of centralization. So we got to find a way to make a hybrid cohesion here in an ecosystem. And it's very important that we recognize that some professionalization needs to be inserted. So I've been in DAOs with Decentraland's Metaverse, with the Metaverse Music Festival. I've been in DAOs with a DAO called the Storytime DAO. Shout out to the Storytime DAO. My business partner, Amy, she belongs to a couple of DAOs. She's got the White Hat DAO, Retoken DAO, which is a real estate DAO, and Gata Protocol. And these are all they're all over the world. The people are in, Southeast Asia. They're in Nigeria. They're in Canada. They're in Britain. They're in America. And what's amazing about this is you have community collaboration from people across the world. And another thing about DAOs is scheduling. Sometimes people are in China and you're in the States, and when some people are in India and you're in Dubai. So it's like coordinating the meetings is a big challenge, and I think Web3 has a challenge about time, coordinating time and when.
In traditional organizations, you had that challenge too, right?
Yes, that's right.
Offshore employees have to manage the time. But yeah, it might be more pressing now that things don't move forward if you are not all voting or all deciding together. And that's another kind of area of challenge with decentralized organizations, that things move pretty slow because we need the collective to vote on something. And so when we look at like tech development or actual product development, we don't see as much of this model working properly because, first of all, as we discussed, the organization is not well matured. People are not, like, a lot of people don't have the accountability. They're not used to just being self-starters, self-motivated, self-driven. They are waiting for their manager or leader to tell them what to do. And it's interesting, your experiences has been the other way around, Kris, that the founder wanted to take it one way and then others had to follow. My experience has been the exact like other side of the spectrum, where the founder just started something and then left it alone and like chaotic,
Yeah,
and no managing, no kind of making sure things are happening, and it turned to some sort of chaos. And like you talked about, like anonymity. When there is no identification of who you are, people can do anything.
that's right. They do
So
do anything.
that is a challenge. And when we're not saying all regulations are good, but some level of regulations bring accountability, and people cannot just harm others. So those are all considerations and works that need to be done. But Web3 worked hard to establish some good directions, and now it's up to us to where we want to take it. So that's very interesting. So let's talk about your work as a digital artist. Tell us more about kind of like how you have been creating in this space, your metaverse environment, your Web3, and your 3D creations. Tell us more.
Thank you. Hey, at the heart of it, I'm a drummer and a piano player. And, I perform for kids at events. I own an events company, and I'm trying to connect these, or we are trying to connect these worlds. So we created the Avatar Convention Center in the Voxels Metaverse, which is an Ethereum-based metaverse. We have many events there. We just had the Halloween Metaverse Festival. We had a Harvest Festival. The Avatar Convention Center is a modular metaverse space. So if you can imagine a convention center, whereas 1 month they have a concert, another month they have a convention of some type of industry, another they have a boxing or a sporting event. So in our metaverse, it's just like that. We have several different experiences that changes. So right now it's sort of like winter wonderland, and we have events there. Uh, we have birthday parties. So anyone here is listening, you're more than welcome to become a member of the Avatar Convention Center and have a free birthday party every year. And we also have digital collectibles. So they're there right now on display, or NFTs, if you will, of our creation. So I use a program called Blender. And in Blender, it's a free software that anyone here is welcome to upload or download to your computer, so you too can learn how to do that. And there's classes on YouTube and LinkedIn here. So through Blender and a lot of time and patience, I learned 3D modeling. So now I have the ability to actually manipulate light and sound. Okay, so anything you can see, we can replicate and turn it into an NFT inside the metaverse. So if you want a car, you want a dress, you want a purse, you want a hat, which I probably need a hat, But I also made this robot. This is my K-bot. It is a you can't really see it that well, but you have to go into the Avatar Convention Center. You can see my K-bot videos, which are also NFTs. So I did the music to it, I did the video editing to it, and turned it into a 3D video game. So this is where you can go now with your business and with your expression, with your passion. You can turn your passions into 3D collectible models for your community, yourself, your expression, and what's coming for technology, and put it on a blockchain ledger, okay, that can be there forever if you want. So I'm very excited about that. I'm even thinking maybe we should NFT some of this pieces of this program we're doing right here. I encourage everyone to learn about blockchain technology. So the Avatar Convention Center, if anyone wants to go there, we have a link there in my link tree and in the chat here. We're there right now, walking around. So
awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh,
so would you say the passion behind this space and your community is entertainment, or what would you say if you were to describe for us what type of kind of values and purpose are you kind of establishing with this community?
Oh, thank you. Ownership, self-sovereignty, value. This is a new way of value that you can control. So instead of having all these outside forces telling you, oh, you don't have enough subscribers, oh, you don't live in the right zip code, oh, you're not driving the right car, oh, you didn't go to the right school. Now you can establish value with your community and your peers. So this is a peer-to-peer value system that we're creating together. And it's still growing. There's a lot to do. There's a lot to do with AI. There's a lot to do with, self-actualization of commerce and how to decentralize commerce, how to integrate what we're already doing into this. So for anyone who's thinking about coming into Web3 or the metaverse or blockchain technology, I would encourage you to start from what your passions are. So if you're passionate about dogs, fishing, sports, anything, you should start. How can I apply this as an addition to what I'm doing, not a replacement? That's another thing. I'm not trying to replace anything. I think we want to evolve and add to what we already value. So our communities, if you're into music, if you have education, if you like cooking, if you like family, if you love friends, food, I said food twice, I guess I'm hungry, toys, everything, costumes, fashion, and there's also the industrial metaverse, so you can apply it to your job. So wherever you work and everything you do can be a digital twin of that. So I think why it's going so slow is the education of these new utilities is not in front of the narrative. So that's why we're working on this book to help steer that information to people, so you can see, hey, this is why you should learn about this, because you can do this, this, and this, and own it. Isn't that cool?
I mean, this is a cool description, because when
I had to go ahead.
When I was exploring a lot of communities in Web3, I noticed one of these big DAOs, they have these different passion-based verticals and sub-DAOs, as they call it. And, within the food space that you mentioned, they would do very fun activities. I don't know if you guys know, but every day is an international food holiday.
Really? Oh my
related
goodness.
to a certain product. Sometimes I'm not sure what today is, but ice cream day or hot dog day, whatever. Like every day is something going on, and so they would do different activities around that. They would do cooking recipes on Twitter, just on the voice space, and people would follow. It's just amazing when you are passionate about something and you initiate this passion-based community and you attract people with similar passions and interests. You will be surprised how people respond to engaging and being part of this. And this is what we need if we are starting or have a consumer focused brand, because that's when you can resonate very much with your audience, when you tap into their passion and interests. And whether even if you are in an enterprise company, you still want to resonate in a very personal level with your audience and your employees. So passion is such an important factor of building community and building a brand. And we have been talking about it in different episodes, how Web3 and these emerging technologies are giving us tools, but we shouldn't forget about this very important element of passion. Robert is mentioning people hang around people like them, relate to people like them, and do business with the people they know and like. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. That's we have our phones. Technology is moving forward, so no one can stop what is happening. It's just amazing, but it's amazing how people want to stay. They don't want to change, and I don't know if you feel it, but I feel it. Something needs to change with social media, with our data, with our value systems, because it looks like YouTube is turning into Mr. Beast Tube. There should be 1,000 Mr. Beasts. Okay, so the centralization of, bottlenecking content, bottlenecking, oh, everyone's going to just love this one platform or this one thing. We have to learn how to love ourselves in a way that it's okay to have 100 people follow us, but they're giving us more value than 100,000 people. So that is a part of Web3. And also, people, I think, expect this thing to be built and they want to walk into it. Oh, everything's made for me. It's already good. Well, if you want convenience, guess what? You're going to give them all your IP, all your data and value. However, I think people need to understand that to come into Web3, you need to help put this thing together. Okay, in every way, the culture, the experience, the value, and it takes time. And it may take time away from TikTok or Facebook, and that's fine. But just know that if you want to build something, you want something to be valuable, help make it. But
Yes,
what do
yes.
you
Yes, I mean, that's what I mentioned earlier. Like, people expect too much without contributing as much. So that is a very important element. I also think people need to be more, understanding of why is it that these centralized organizations are treating us this way, because they're offering us a lot of these services for free. And if you do pay, then your experience is slightly different. You will have ownership over what you're doing, and you can choose whether you want your data is being shared and stuff. So it's all about, like, even like right now when we're streaming, if I were to create this content on LinkedIn directly, I would not own this at all. It would be either LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. If we were to individually stream there, we would not own the content. But what I instead decided to do is to use this platform StreamYard, which offers us, like, because we are paying, we can own the content, and then we stream across different platforms. So if LinkedIn or Facebook decides to ban my account or delete it or whatever, I still own my content. So it's about, having this understanding. Yes, convenience is a big factor, but also a lot of times people forget that because you're not paying for something, you're giving away your data as a product, as a cost. So there's always a fee. There's nothing free. And I want to touch on what Robert mentioned in the comments, that using digital technologies that connect and engage people around those things make it effective. It's not about you, it's about them. I slightly disagree with that, Robert, because if you think about most of the even tech companies, they don't start without founders' passion and interest of solving their own problem. In 99.9% of the time, companies or successful brands start with someone wanting to solve their own problem. And then over time, as they grow and scale, they start and making sure that they're listening to the customer, to the audience that they pick, and how they are best serving them. But this passion is kind of a non negotiable element of every company. If you look at Airbnb, Twitter, all of them, like they all started with something inside the founder wanting to change the what has been common, and that is very important. So it is about us as founders, and it also is about the customer, but it shouldn't be too much about us at some point, because if we just head down, focus on ourselves, then we will be losing sight of what our audience and people that are actually paying for this want.
But
um, and then Robert mentioned with, yeah, go ahead.
let me respectfully gently push back a little bit like that. Okay, you get on a plane, they tell you put the mask over yourself and then put it over your child or put it over your loved one. I believe this is this space can be a teaching moment for self-care. Okay, and then after you know hold yourself up with confidence, then you can share what you've learned, as opposed to, oh, me, I just want everything for me. I see what you're saying, though. So that's all I wanted to say.
I appreciate that. Yes, and Robert mentioning that this is related to engagement, what he pointed out, and the target audience, the connection. Yes, so it's very important that the activities that we plan around our field, and product and brand are serving what the audience wants to have. And Robert mentioned also that with the current big platforms, you are the product, not the user, customer. Therefore, your data, activity, likes, and dislikes are being sold to advertisers in the form of targeting. There's no privacy on the platforms with ad models. Yeah, I mean, and even that goes back to the founder. If you listen to Mark Zuckerberg, he is all about, privacy is kind of bullshit.
I'm
He
sorry, repeat
doesn't
that. What's bullshit?
he doesn't believe in privacy. He thinks that people need to be super open. And
Okay,
it's
Mark
funny
Zuckerberg doesn't believe.
in the Congress, sorry, let me finish that.
I'm sorry.
In the Congress hearing, someone asked about his hotel and where he had dinner and stuff like that, to just kind of question this fun fact that he doesn't believe that people need to have privacy, but he himself values his own privacy. Absolutely. And so that is where we are. So the disconnect from what you like for yourself versus what you like for others. And that's the problem. So, as a founder, he chose that area, but he's not sticking to it himself. And that is what we are seeing as a challenge in the world. Now, I am completely opposite. I'm actually harder on myself than people around me. Like, I always think that I need to work harder than anybody else to be a role model, or do stick to my values more than anybody else, so I can support them. But they're just different types of people, and different ways that they have succeeded in what they're doing. And there's so many factors that went into becoming successful. And yes, Google, tagline is do not do no evil, and yes, don't be an evil. So these are all interesting. And how far do they stick to these value systems that they set up? That's a question. So yes, these are very interesting elements that we touched on. And the other thing that I wanted to hear from you, Kris, is what are some of the kind of memorable experiences or examples of your interaction with your community? Some of the good experiences, some of the challenges. What has come so far for you?
Thank you. The people I've met in Web3 over the past 3 years since 2021, when the pandemic started, or after it started, has been a life changing, amazing, wonderful. You know, the majority of the people who I know and love and care about, I've never seen them in person. Okay, I okay. So for those of you who have been on social media, let's say you've been on Facebook, right? And maybe you graduated 20, 30 years ago, 15 years ago, right? And you've really only been interacting with these people on Facebook. You haven't even seen them. Okay, so that's all. That starts that digital twin of a representation of a person. So meeting people and connecting with them through our voice and through our interactions and through supporting them on their social media, supporting what they're doing with their businesses and their art, and even having powwows and talking about struggles of, like, personality conflicts, people with mental health conditions. You're learning and loving and connecting 24 hours a day, and it's beautiful. And it's basically a bridge to the metaverse. Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, they're bridges to a virtual world. Now, when we do see each other in person, sometimes it's like, hey, okay, I've been knowing you forever, and now we're in person, and now I can see how you breathe or how you talk or what your mannerisms, and that's fascinating because you're like, hey, I've been connecting with you. We've been, making money together and talking for 2, 3 years, and now I see you in person. So the experience has been absolutely amazing. And when we put things on like this, when we have social media and engagement, virtual events, dropping NFTs and wearables and art, and supporting each other or showing up together as a group to tour metaverse spaces, these things are like in my brain and in my heart as real as graduating from high school. They're real special memories that you carry, and it has been absolutely amazing. And I wish others could know how it feels, because it basically replaced television, because some people just want to watch Netflix, and there's nothing wrong with that, or they want to, go listen, watch MSNBC or Fox, and there's nothing wrong with that. But having the exchange, having the back and forth, having the pushback with people as a conversational experience, conversation relationships, it's just amazing. So we had the Halloween Metaverse Festival last October 31st to November 2nd. We had 5,000 people show up at that virtually. Okay, we had over 35,000 people show up at the Avatar Convention Center, through their phone, through their tablets, through their headsets, through their desktops, and we're creating experiences, community, and engagement with these people. Uh, so the experience has been fantastic, and I don't want it to ever change. I do still go out because I do live events. I'm a live events host for events at kids clubs and stuff, and I do DJing, and I have my robot puppet show, and I go out with friends and family, and all that is very important. And the digital life is important. There's no but, it's and. So if for those of you who are saying, "Oh, I'll never do this, I'll never do that," give it a try. I'm not asking to replace it, but it is valuable. And especially as we go into a global community, global commerce, it is essential that we understand what can happen. People are falling in love in the metaverse. People are buying cars and houses in the metaverse now. So don't knock it till you try it. And I love my communities, and even the people that I've butted heads with, and we've had some distance between us. I love these people. They've changed my life, and I mean that. So I'm passionate about continuing this and growing with it, so we can build the new world as in addition to the world we already have. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it is very important to look at these new technologies as enhancing and complementing what we already have or what we're already doing. We are all, used to, being interacting on social media. It has become a natural thing to do. Our phone is now an extension of our bodies. If our phone is not with us, there's something is hugely missing. So now, how can we get closer to the physical reality? And that's where these virtual reality, augmented reality, all metaverse technologies, immersive experiences are coming into engaging more of our senses. So when we meet someone in person, is closer to what we learned from them in the virtual experience and virtual interaction. Because if you're just interacting over text, or if you're just on the phone, some information will be missing. So how can we get more information to be able to analyze and better understand the other side? And yes, who is to define what is real? And all
Right?
of this can be
Who is
real.
to find what's real? Because think about it. For those, everybody here who's listening went to school, right? Elementary school, high school. Some of you went to college. How often did you touch your instructor? You know, they were over there. You see them every day. You're interacting with them. I mean, for all you know, they could be a hologram. So that is why it's like you never touch a judge. Okay, the judge can be a hologram. Hopefully, you don't ever touch a cop. I don't know. That's a whole nother can of worms, because security in these worlds is a very important matter that really needs to be addressed with
Safety and security,
oh
yes.
my gosh, yeah, there was some, the metaverse has a lot of security issues that will be in the forefront. Metaverse crimes. I just want to really quickly talk about a couple of them, if you will. You guys won't believe the types of crimes that can happen in a digital world. I'm sure you all know about, scams, people taking your identity as far as opening up an account in your name, those types of things. But I just want to just go over a couple of them. Property crime. Imagine your avatar being robbed. Okay, could you imagine that? Someone robbing your virtual real estate, damage of your property, trespassing on your private virtual space, virtual burglary. Now, we already know about the harassment of the sexual harassment, indecent exposure, assault. We can have that happen already on Facebook or Twitter. But, and we also can have identity crime, just like I spoke of, deep fake. There's a lot. So the cybercrime, the data theft, the ransomware, you know, unlawful access to interfaces, and even going down to counterfeiting. These are important use cases to understand, and you can't ignore this stuff because it may have already happened to you. There's data breaches happening all the
Well,
time.
but these are not because of the technology. It's because of people.
No, but
It,
I'm saying to learn about this technology is
yes,
one.
it's
It's important
important
to
to be
understand it.
aware
Okay,
and
thank you for letting me go down
mindful.
that rabbit hole. I'm done. Mhm.
No, no, I appreciate it. Touching on all of this is super important for people to be aware and do all the due diligence that they need to do to protect themselves. And it goes back to like the founders, the companies behind these platforms. Did they ever design for safety? Hardly no. And so, like, I was at the conference Metaverse Safety Week a few weeks ago, and we talked about this extensively, how a lot of these platforms are not really caring about regulations or safety elements until after everything is built, and then they're just protecting themselves from getting sued or the fines that are coming. And it's really not much for them to pay those fees. So that's how they move forward. And it goes back to the value system. A lot of the builders and the founders behind them don't care about safety because that's not going to necessarily make money. And so that is a challenge that we're facing. And security elements come with new technologies, and there are always bad actors. Bad actors in the physical world can harm us in certain ways. Bad actors in the virtual world can harm us in similar or very different ways. So yes, I appreciate you bringing that up, because when we are advocating for these new technologies, we also need to talk about what can go wrong, and make sure people are well aware of it.
What you just said, well aware. That's the thing. Education. It doesn't seem like the platforms now are educating us on what is possible, especially with data. You just go there and have fun. You put your pictures up. You talk about your life. You give them all this data, and we're in a sort of a cage of not really understanding. So, I'm an educational advocate. That's why I'm working on this book for blockchain technology to educate people on what is possible and what's coming down the pipe. So, I really appreciate you allowing me to come here and
I
speak with you,
appreciate
Nico.
you. Thank you. Please tell us what you have planned. Before we go into that, I want to thank our audience responding into our conversation. We talked about virtual connections and virtual reality, and Robert mentioned he met his wife on Twitter, and
Oh,
yet
wow.
social
Congratulations.
social media and social or virtual platforms are so real, and a lot of dating apps, networking apps have led to significant elements of our lives, and so that is really powerful, and it could be better as we
Yeah, do it. Go ahead. Give me a high five.
high five.
Go ahead, Nico. Put your hand over there. This way.
I'm on the other side on the screen, but
He doesn't want to do it. Hold on, guys. This is supposed to
um,
be about engagement and fun.
yes. So tell us, Kris, what is the plan for your book, and any project or upcoming plans that you have? How can our community support you?
Thank you. The plan for the book is to have it read and paid for, maybe possibly turning it into an NFT and a metaverse. Okay. The plan for the book is also fractionalized ownership. The plan for the book is for the first few hundred people who buy it can actually own a piece of the royalties for a limited time to actually create the other version of the book. It is a textbook. It's an e-book for blockchain technology. It's very, very comprehensive and meticulous, but also easy to understand. So the plan is to get the community feedback on how the book could be better, to also attach other people's blockchain Web3 experiences to this book so we together can educate. And I don't know it all. Even ChatGPT doesn't know it all. I'll tell you that right now. So prompting isn't the end of the world. It's the beginning of something, and this book is the beginning of something. And we want to create new experiences of education, even if that means you have to walk inside of a 3D world and take a test, or learn from visuals, or make it into an audio 3D immersive experience. So we want to turn this book into an ebook, a real book, a curriculum, a course, and sell it to universities. It's university level quality, and it's called Building Wealth with Blockchain, a conversational path to metaverse prosperity. Please follow me, and in the coming weeks, we will be releasing it. Maybe there's a beta release so we can get some feedback before we launch it completely, because we need a proofreader, or someone to say, hey, I like this, but I don't like that. Why don't you add this, add that? And so a community-led endeavor, but I'm doing the hard work first of actually putting all the text there. And text inside the metaverse is actually not easy. So that's another difficult thing is, how do you see text virtually on your phone as compared to your headset? So we're working on all of that. And would love for everyone to engage as we post more information about it, and how to copyright it, how to turn it into an NFT, NFT ebook and an NFT physical book. So you have a physical copy and a digital copy, and make it into a course. So that's
Beautiful.
the plan.
Amazing. Best of luck with that. That sounds amazing. Education is such an important element, and honestly, that has been the main reason I started this show, because I realized that people need to be connected to each other and talk about these topics. And yes, this is super valuable what you're doing. Thank you for
You
that. Thank
too.
you for
You too. What you're doing is super
coming out.
valuable. And Nico, I want to let you know, anytime you do the Emergence show, you have an open space at the Avatar Convention Center every Tuesday if anyone wants to jump in the metaverse and watch your show. So me,
Thank
Amy,
you.
Marcella, and the rest of the community, Brooke, David, Lucy, we're all letting you know. Idris would love you to come there anytime you want to have your show there.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. And thank you for your time, for co hosting this with me. And thank you to all of our amazing audience that contributed. I am Lotus, Robert, and Lucy, and all of the other folks that I don't see their comments, but I'm sure they're there. And yes, we will come back every Tuesday at 2 p.m. EST, 11 a.m. PSC. And we appreciate you, Kris. We are very excited to hear from your amazing book and your amazing robo show. And yes, thank you, everyone. Have a
Yeah,
beautiful.
thank you guys.
Yes.
See you in the metaverse, everybody, at the Avatar Convention Center. Thanks, Immersion Show. Fantastic.
Thank you so much. Have a beautiful day, everyone. Take care. Bye.
Bye, you guys.